Okay, what is good, ladies and gents? I hope everyone is well. Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be sitting down and talking about architecture. So I get a lot of questions about architecture. When's your next architecture video coming out? And today, ladies and gents, we're coming out with probably answering the question I get a lot. So I'm actually going to be covering portfolios today, and I'm also going to be doing a sit-down Q&A and answering all the questions that you guys have asked me. So I'm currently sat with my decaf coffee. I've just got back from the gym, as you can tell. I've just had a shower. So let's get into it. So portfolio. So I get asked about portfolios all the time, and a lot of the time I don't know whether people are asking about portfolios to get into uni or portfolios whilst you're at uni. So they're obviously completely different. I'm going to try and cover both of them. So firstly, portfolio to get into uni. So I didn't actually need a portfolio to get into Birmingham City University. I just literally got straight in. But I did actually hand in some portfolios for other universities as part of my application. So I'm going to kind of cover that as much as I possibly can. So obviously this is just my opinion, and I don't know exactly what the teachers actually want in the portfolio, but this is kind of what I think people should put in, and kind of my bit of advice. So first of all, I'd kind of show as many skill sets as possible. So maybe in your portfolio you'll have some sketches, maybe some paintings, maybe a collage, maybe some Photoshop work, maybe some like more digital work, show your digital skills. Maybe show some interest in maybe some buildings that you like the look of. Maybe do some research and include that to show that you're actually interested in the subject. And kind of just show as many skills as possible, so they can get an idea of your kind of skill set, what you're good at, what you're not so good at. And probably the most important thing I'd probably say is show your interest in the subject. So show you are interested in the subject. So maybe go out, sit and look at a building, draw a building, maybe paint a building. And like I mentioned, maybe do some research on buildings you like. Put that into the portfolio, show that you are interested in the subject, because at the end of the day, people are going to want you at university if you are actually interested in the subject. You might be really good at drawing and stuff, but if you're not actually interested in the subject, they're probably not going to want you as much as someone that is really wanting to become an architect. So show all your skill sets, your sketches, your paintings, your collage, maybe some digital work, but show that you are interested in the subject. So draw some buildings, show some research, maybe, I don't know, a couple buildings you really like across the world, show that you've done some research in it. Maybe sketch up some of the photos that you found on the internet and kind of do some annotations next to it. Maybe try not to have too much text in it, because they don't like a lot of text. They like a lot of visual stuff, so a lot of drawings, visuals, plans, sections, that kind of stuff. So maybe try and keep it very visual based and try not to have too much text. But that's what I kind of advise you guys to do. So for me, luckily, in my second year at sixth form, so my year 13, I actually did a project based on building and designing a leisure centre. So I had a photo of a model of a leisure centre that I had designed. I've got floor plans, I had like visuals, renders of the building. So I had all this work that I could then show on my portfolio, so I looked like I was interested in the subject. And I also did a lot of kind of architecture work on my art course, because I just love drawing buildings, so I included a lot of that into the portfolio as well. So kind of just tailor it to your skill sets and also just show your interest. That's kind of the main points that I would cover with that. But obviously that's just my opinion. I don't know exactly what the teachers want, but that's kind of what I assume they would want, if you know what I mean. Anyway, into the second portfolio whilst you're at university. So there's a lot of things I can cover here, which I am actually going to cover, and I'm going to talk through the whole thing. So basically, in a portfolio, so semester 1 we had a portfolio 1, semester 2 we had a portfolio 2. So portfolio 1 is 25% of our grade of the whole year. Portfolio 2 is 75% of kind of that module. So the two portfolios come together, so they're both as important as the other, but usually your portfolio 1 isn't as good as your portfolio 2, because obviously you learn more stuff in the second half of the year than you do in the first half of the year, if you know what I mean. So your portfolio will include all of your projects in that semester. So this year, I'm going to talk about this year, not last year. This year we have done 4 projects throughout the whole year. So portfolio 1 includes project 1 and project 2. Portfolio 2 includes project 3 and project 4. So project 1 was actually just a site analysis project. Project 2 was a complete project, so we had site analysis. In fact, I've got a list of everything I tend to include in a portfolio. So we have site analysis, so you want sketches, you want access to the site, you want sun, you want ventilation or wind, you want maybe pedestrian access, maybe vehicle access where there's local parking, maybe smells, taste, what it's like at night, like the feeling around the area, all sorts of stuff for your site analysis. So you initially want a complete site analysis of the site, and this will actually kind of set you up for then designing, because you obviously want a building that is going to be sitting in the site, and you want the site to influence the building, if you understand what I mean. You then move into a precedent study, so you then look at maybe examples of precedents that you kind of want to include in your design, but a lot of the time what you want to do, you want to kind of think of an idea of what you want for your design. You then want a precedent study to influence your design. You don't exactly want the precedent study, so you don't want to be copying the precedent study, you want to use the precedent study to back up your idea. And so what you'd want to do, you want to do sketches of the precedent study, maybe find some floor plans and annotate the floor plans, maybe what you want to take from that design, or what is influencing your design. So I'd usually have that alongside like initial sketches or development, so that when you're kind of looking through your portfolio, you can see that you've looked at precedent studies and you've looked at your design, and you've looked like you've taken bits and bobs, and you've looked at kind of what's influenced your design. You then want to do your research, so you want to do your research into your, like what your building is going to be. So at the moment I'm doing a health and wellbeing museum, so I've done a lot of research into health and wellbeing to back up my design, and I've also done a lot of research into like museums and that kind of stuff, learning types and that kind of thing. You then want to do kind of some information about your clients, so who is your target audience, who are you, who do you want to, what kind of people are you looking to design for? Maybe is it for families, is it for the general public? If you're designing a building estate, obviously you've got to think about like couples, people that are going to be living on their own, big families. So you're going to have to design 1-bedroom house, 2-bedroom house, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom. So you've got to think about all this kind of stuff. So you want to do some initial research into clients, and who is actually going to be using the building, or the buildings, the houses. You then get into initial ideas, so you initially start sketching kind of some ideas, maybe your initial ideas after looking at the site, maybe your initial ideas after looking at some precedent studies, and you just want to get a load of sketches together, just rough sketches, nothing too neat. You want to be quite kind of messy with it. That's one thing that I'm not very good at, is being messy. I'm very quite particular, I'm very organised, which does my head in, but you want to be quite messy with initial ideas. You just want to sketch out some initial stuff, maybe how the building will work on the site, maybe how prevailing wind will affect the site, maybe you want the building to have some like solar shading from south sun, that kind of stuff. You just want to do some initial sketches, maybe the form of the building, how you initially want the floor plan to look, just loads of little sketches that you can then include in your portfolio later on. You then get into design development, so you kind of refine your ideas, you look into precedent studies into more depth and how you can use these precedent studies to inform your design, and you want to look at kind of developing floor plans. So you want to be doing functional diagrams, you want to be doing sketch models to influence your design, you want to be doing massing models, so showing like the masses of the building. So maybe if you've got a 2-story building, but one bit is 1 story and the other bit is 2 story, you want a massing model to show that this bit is going to be this high, this bit's going to be this high. You want to do loads of sketches, once again in reacting to the site. And design development, you will have a lot of it, because throughout the whole time that you're doing your project, you're going to be having reviews, so your tutor is probably going to change your design like multiple times. So a lot of people get fed up with it, but they will change your design a lot, but that also means that you then have a lot of design development, and it means that you've got a lot of work to inform your final design at the end of the day. So you've got your design development, you've got your sketch models. You You then move into your final design. So after all of that research, after looking at the site, looking at precedent studies, looking at research into the type of building you want to do with the client, your initial ideas, you then develop the work, you develop the floor plans, you refine the floor plan, you're doing your sketch models, you eventually get to a final design that is informed by everything previously. So with your final design, you want to present plans, sections, elevations, you want to present visuals, you want to present details to show that maybe how the wall is made up, how it'll interact with the roof and the floor. You want access and circulation, so how people can access the site, how people are going to be walking around the site, how people are going to approach the site, maybe their journey through the site. You then want site strategy, so maybe how people can park. So maybe if you've got an access over here in the north and you've got an access on the south, you want to do a plan to show that maybe people will be coming in this direction, people will be coming in this direction, people will be parking here, so maybe disabled parking here, that kind of stuff. So you want a complete site strategy. You then want an environmental section, so an environmental section will show basically sunlight, so how you are getting natural lighting into the space, and also ventilation through the space, so natural ventilation, cross ventilation. So heat, warmer air will be rising, so you want to be showing that in your section. Obviously the cooler air will be coming in through the doors and through the windows, so you want to show that. So usually it's just a section with maybe like blue and red arrows, and then also some yellow arrows just to show natural daylight and that kind of stuff. You then want a characteristic section, so a characteristic section maybe cutting through, maybe with my museum, so the main exhibition space, I want a section cutting through that to show the character of the building, pretty much. You then want models, so you want a final model, maybe you want a sectional model, maybe you want a model to show the structure of the building, and then finally you probably want some diagrams to kind of help people understand the floor plan. So maybe you could have like a color-coded thing where you tell people this is a lobby, this is the reception, this is the cafe, this is the kitchen, that kind of stuff, and maybe color-code it, or do it with numbers or arrows or that kind of stuff. And diagrams are very, very useful for helping people understand kind of the design of the building, how the building works. And for people that don't really understand architecture, maybe if you are doing a project, maybe ask your mum or dad who aren't that into architecture to have a look at your design and see if they understand it, and that way you can kind of inform what diagrams you need to do, what extra work you need to do to make it a little bit more clear for people to read. So yeah, that was pretty long. I've actually got my portfolio 1, so this is my portfolio from the first half of second year. I'm going to show you some bits of work that I've done. So this is nowhere near the standard that I'm working at the moment, so my portfolio 2 is going to be much better. I'm much happier with my portfolio 2 at the moment, but I'm going to show you some work and kind of just show you the layout of pretty much what I do. So you initially want obviously a front cover to show with your name on it, the portfolio title, the module title, and maybe just a visual just to make it look a little bit more professional. You then want your contents page. There. Oh, this is getting a pain in the ass. Right. Contents page. Title page for the project that we've done. So that, and then this is the title page for my work. So a visual brief, so talking through your aim with your design, and then you want a manifesto to show kind of some initial research. And this is basically a housing design. So site analysis, so like I mentioned, looking at wind, access, sun, maybe activities on the site, what people are doing on the site, maybe a site plan, showing some broader context. You then want to look at precedent studies, so this is kind of what I mean by precedent studies. You want to analyse them, kind of take some bits from them, looking at the floor plans, analysing the floor plans. So that's some landscape precedent studies. You then want to look into initial ideas, so these are like my initial sketches. You then want to look at models, looking at the space in volumes, massing, and then maybe how the spaces look at different times of the day using kind of light studies. More development, kind of showing what you want to improve, So this actual project I did basically a housing scheme, and I had apartments and houses. I had 2-bed houses, 3-bed houses, 4-bed houses, and then I had apartments. And then you want kind of your final ideas, or your final design. So this is my master plan, final design, some visuals, some floor plans, like I mentioned, with the diagrams, annotating with colours to make it easier for people to understand. And then you want some black and white plans as well. So elevations, apartment floor plans, so more diagrams to show what each spaces are. Some visuals, so what it looks like on the inside from different views. So a load of sections, detailed section, aerial view, more visuals, looking at some materials, let's put it like that, looking at materials, more visuals, and then the final model. And so yes, that was my portfolio 1. That was very brief, but I just thought I'd give you some like examples, because people do ask me to show them their work. My work. So I thought I'd just show you my portfolio 1. You can also get portfolios off Pinterest, so I advise you to look on Pinterest and literally just type in architecture portfolios, and it will come up and it'll give you some ideas on portfolio like layouts. And also look at ISSU, I think it's called, or ISUU, or ISSUU, which also have some good portfolio examples as well. So these are websites I look to kind of get some inspiration on how I should lay out my panels, and how the portfolio should look. So after all that, we're now going into our Q&A. So I have about 40 questions, which I'm going to try and get through as many as possible. Obviously answer the ones that are relevant. So could you please discuss laptop recommendations in your video? It'd be really helpful. So laptops for architecture, I get asked this question a lot. Basically at the end of the day, get a Windows laptop. Try, if you can, get an i7 with decent RAM. So I have a HP Envy i7 with 16 gig RAM, and you want a decent amount of storage as well. So do not make the mistake and invest a lot of money into an Apple, into a Mac, because a lot of softwares that you use in architecture are not compatible with Apple Macs. So just don't buy an Apple Mac. Don't do it, because you realise along the line that you don't actually need one and you actually can't use it. So invest in a Windows. So my computer was only £1,000, which is very cheap for an architecture computer, and it's a HP Envy i7 16 gig RAM, and it works a treat. You can get like the Alienware Windows, which are very good as well, but they're quite expensive and they are massive. They're like really heavy, like heavy duty laptops, but they're really good as well. So Windows laptop for sure. Something on your design process, inspo for design. So I've pretty much just talked through the whole design process. How often do you pull all-nighters? So actually this year, I haven't actually pulled an all-nighter yet at all. I've been pretty on top of my work, so I haven't actually been able to pull one, or haven't needed to pull one. However, end of last year, so end of 2018, me and Jacob did probably about 2 weeks worth of staying up till about 4 o'clock in the morning, just making models, and it was a pain in the arse. So don't do it, it's a nightmare. And first year there were a couple of nights where I was up till 4 or 5 o'clock, which is not good. I do not recommend it at all, because what I find is that if you stay up really late, you then are not productive the next day at all. So what I try and do now is, if I've got a lot of work to do, I just go to bed earlier, and I make sure that the next day I absolutely smash out the work from the morning, and then get into bed for about 11-ish, and then do the same again. So rather than staying up really late, feeling really tired the next day, go to bed a little bit earlier, wake up the next day feeling much better, feeling much more awake and alive to do work and be really productive in the day. So that's my advice. All-nighters are not good. because they write you off for a long time. So if you do an all-nighter, you will be written off for probably about a week, trying to get back to your sleeping pattern. So there's just no point in doing all-nighters. I personally just try not to stress too much about it. If you've got some work to do, go to bed a little bit earlier, wake up early in the morning, and just be as productive as possible throughout the day. So yeah, what maths do you have to do? Not that much at the moment, to be fair. Just kind of figuring out floor plans, maybe a bit of structural stuff, kind of working out distances between beams and columns and that kind of stuff. But at the moment, not much maths. Approximately how many hours do you spend on pure academic work? At the moment, it's been a little bit less because I've been productive in the hours that I have been working. First year, I spent a ridiculous amount of hours, probably about 9-10 hours a day on uni work, which was a joke. This year, I've probably been doing about 6 hours a day. Some days, only a couple hours, just because in the hours that I am working, I'm being very productive, meaning that I don't have to spend loads of time like recorrecting stuff. So we do spend a lot of time, but if you plan out your time well and you're productive in the hours that you do work, you won't actually have to spend that much work a day. Probably up to about 6-7 hours though, which is still probably, people will find that quite a lot, but I personally don't think that's that much anymore. Is the maths and physics side of architecture really difficult? At the moment, no. Do you have to do exams or is it pure coursework? This is pure coursework, 100% coursework, which I'm very happy about. I'm awful at exams, so I made sure that I did a course that was 100% coursework. I think this uni is 100% course. Other unis do have like 5% exams, which is stupid. It should all be coursework. What do you do on the course? I'm not even going to answer that question. Come on. Did you always want to do architecture? Literally since I was about 5, I wanted to be an architect. So yes. What do you want to do in the future, job-wise? Well, I'm studying architecture, so probably an architect. Do you ever get bored of architecture? Yes, everyone gets bored of architecture at some point. Some projects are boring, really boring, but you just got to get on with it, and then usually the next project's pretty good. So the projects are very varied, they're very mixed. Some you will like, some you won't like. Some tutors you'll like, some tutors you won't like, but you just got to get on with it. How long is the course? 3 years to get a degree, 2 years to get a master's, 2 years to become professional, so 7 years. Plus, you have to do 6 months of working experience between getting your degree and doing your master's. So that could mean that you are doing 8 years, which is quite a long time. The process and concept of a project, I've showed you that. How was it moving from first year into second year? Was the transition smooth / difficult? I thought it was pretty smooth. I thought it wasn't as big of a jump as I thought it would be. I was very stressed at the end of first year, so I was just stressing out about going into second year. But it's actually okay. If you put your mind to it, if you work hard, you will be fine. Workload is a little bit more, but if you can arrange your time a little bit better, you tend to not spend as much work as you do in first year. First year is usually just like thrown in the deep end. You're stressed, you're sleep deprived, everything's rubbish, you think everything's rubbish. And then you get into second year, you kind of learn from your first year, you're a lot less stressed, you're more productive, that kind of stuff. So the transition was fairly easy in my point. How difficult is it? I personally sometimes find it difficult, but usually I'm okay with it. Obviously people think differently, so I can't answer that question. I can answer on my behalf, but not everyone else's. A lot of people really do struggle, so I'd probably say it is quite difficult, but if you put your mind to it, you'll be okay. For me, I feel like I'm quite naturally gifted in architecture. I feel like it's quite a tailor-made course for me. So a lot of the stuff they give us to do, I'm usually quite good at. The one thing I'm not really great at is the structural stuff, because I'm not very interested in that. But in terms of designing, the graphic side of it, I'm usually pretty good, so I don't find it too difficult. But a lot of people do find it quite difficult. Architecture is good. Is it good? It's good. Laptop suggestion, already done that. Can you show some work? Already showed some work. How often do you sketch? not enough. First year you sketch a lot, you do everything, pretty much everything hand drawn. Second year you move into more computer based stuff, so I do pretty much everything digitally. I try and do some sketches here and there, try and obviously do some models, try and be a bit more creative, but a lot of the time you are doing a lot of digital work, so I don't sketch that often. What are the entry requirements for architecture at Birmingham? I think it was ABB or AAB. And the final question from Sophia: how do you make your work good enough to be offered a job? So basically what happened was I had a final review 2 weeks ago. We had external architects coming in, so I had a director of the company coming in and watching mine. After my presentation, the guy came up to me and handed me a business card and said that if I wanted to do any work on my year out or any work experience, then just let him know, which was pretty cool. So I was really happy about that, I'm not gonna lie. So Sophia, basically, I just work really hard, to be honest. I just work, and a lot of the stuff I feel like I'm naturally gifted at, so a lot of the graphical stuff, I can just look at it and kind of know how to arrange a panel and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I do work really hard. So to all you guys, if you do work really hard, you're going to do well. If you work hard in life, you're going to be successful. And yeah, hard work beats talent every day. This is stuff I preach a lot. I know this is getting quite motivational, but work hard, people, work hard. Don't fuck around with your life. Sorry for swearing, but just work hard, man. Just work really hard and you will get somewhere in your life. I promise you, just work hard. I'm losing my voice, so thank you so much for watching the video, guys. I really hope you found it interesting. I bet you guys are glad that I'm back with another architecture video. I've got another architecture video planned for the next few weeks, so look out for that. But yeah, I'm losing my voice. My decaf coffee is getting cold. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Make sure you smash the thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time. Peace.